Well, how's everybody doing? It's Tuesday, it's day 72, and I got a really cool story to share with you. Um, hey, most of you, I'm sure, have heard the name Tim Tebow, right? So, Tim was a Heisman Trophy winning football player that went to school at the University of Florida, won a national championship, and he's well known today as a man of faith, and uh, he's had a really interesting life. Well, if you fast forward to several years beyond college, he gets drafted in the first round, which should have never ever happened. Most experts and any layman would agree that even knew him a little, maybe just watched him a little bit. Is he was on an excellent football team in college, but he certainly wasn't a first round draft choice. But God blessed him, and he became a first round draft choice for the Denver Broncos. A couple years later, they're in the playoffs, and the guy's playing against my favorite team. I remember watching this game. It was a heartbreaker. The game went into overtime, and Denver wins the football playoff game when Tim Tebow throws a 74-yard touchdown pass in overtime, sudden death, and they win. Crazy. Well, what was interesting about the whole thing, some of you may have heard this story, is when he was in college, he followed this tradition that college players were doing at the time where they wore eye black. And instead of putting the black ink under their eye, they had a black patch that they would put under their eye, and they could write something on there. Some kids wrote "Hi Mom" or "Hi Dad." Tim Tebow wrote John 3:16. John 3:16's, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, so that you may not perish but have everlasting life. And he wore John 3:16 the entire season. Well, 3 years later, in that playoff game against Pittsburgh, he's the hero. And the one of the team members that's in communications came up to him after the game and said, "Tim, do you realize what just happened? 3 years ago today is when you wore the eye black, and the last game of your career, it said John 3:16." And Tim was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool, man." The guy goes, "No, you don't understand. Your average rush during the game per attempt. In other words, every time he ran the ball, he averaged 3.16 per carry. The TV ratings were 31.6 for the game. This is a true story. His average completion for every pass that he threw was 31.6 yards for the game. He threw for a grand total of 316 yards for the game. And his team's time of possession, which is something that's calculated, how long did you have the football when you were playing the game, was 31 minutes and 6 seconds. Absolutely stunning statistics that could nowhere in hell be a coincidence. Tim Tebow tells this story in many of his public speeches and guest appearances when he's hired to go speak in front of young men and women. If you Google it, Google Tim Tebow speech 3:16. You'll hear it straight from the horse's mouth. But it was a staggering list of statistics that had 31.6 and at 3.16. Anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you today. Kind of a feel-good story. Hope you're doing well. And be brave, be strong. Go get what's yours today. Bye-bye.